We all saw it. Daniel hitting the deck by the lake. Not just drunk, but out. But 6 pairs of eyes, 6 sets of lips, all told the police the exact same lie. He just walked away. We were drunk, scared. Our whole senior year, our scholarships were on the line. One call, and it was all over. It was Chloe, the golden girl, who made the call. Literally, she insisted it was the only way to protect us. No witnesses, no charges. No one knew we'd left him for dead. The lake had swallowed the truth, and they never found his body. 3 weeks later, we almost believed it. Almost. Then I walked into the locker room this morning, and the lie came back, scrawled right there on the fogged-up mirror. Someone had used bright red lipstick, the kind Sarah always wears. It said, "Where were you at 1:15 a.m.?" That was the exact minute we peeled out of the driveway, leaving Daniel's body by the water. My hands were shaking. This was a spotlight pointed directly at the worst thing we'd ever done. Fiercely whispering into my phone, I said, "It's starting. Get to the hideout now. Meet me in the abandoned chem lab. We need to talk about who else knows." The abandoned lab smelled like dust and old chemicals. The 6 of us huddled under the weak emergency light, which cast anxious shadows. Chloe was the first to snap out of it, insisting loudly.
It was a joke.
But her eyes were darting everywhere. I watched Brian's face. He was leaning against the wall, always playing with that key on his chain. He was the only one who hated the lie from day one. Chloe stepped into the center and said coldly,
Stop looking at each other. Someone saw us leave.
Brian finally spoke, his tone flat. Or someone in this room is making this mess. Chloe hissed back immediately.
Shut up, Brian. The lipstick message was in the girls' locker room. Only one of us could have seen it.
But the wet backpack near the gym entrance kept me thinking about Brian's early arrival. We had to know the truth. "Brian," Chloe demanded, her voice cracked, "what were you doing? And what the hell is that key for?" Brian pulled the key from his neck chain and admitted tiredly, "It's for the old media center's AV closet. I like to listen to the archived tapes." As the tension started to ease, Lisa let out a sharp, strangled cry. Right in the center of the dusty lab bench sat a brand-new voice recorder. Taped to its side was a tiny note, "Play me." The device was still warm. Someone had just been here. Chloe reached for it. "Don't touch it!" I screamed, but it was too late. She pressed play. A single echoing sound came out of the speaker. My own recorded whisper. "Get to the hideout. Now." Then a faint, close, distorted chuckle, not ours. We froze. Brian snatched the device and hit play again, skipping past our voices. The recording clicked, and a sudden swell of distorted party music and loud, slurred voices filled the small, cold lab. It was that night by the lake. Then a muffled voice, Daniel's, desperate, "Chloe, wait! You don't understand!" Followed by a wet, sickening thwack. It wasn't the sound of falling we heard that night. It was the sound of someone being hit. Hard. Mike's face went white. We didn't just leave Daniel after he fell. Daniel was knocked down. The truth was, one of us was responsible for the fall.
It's been 3 weeks.
Chloe said, urgent and desperate.
We have to go back to the lake, tonight. Maybe Daniel left something we missed.
I knew. If we went back to the lake, we wouldn't be looking for Daniel's secret. We'd be looking for our own guilt. The lakeshore felt colder and darker. We spread out, searching the wet mud. Chloe was near the fallen oak. She let out a small, choked scream.
She wasn't holding evidence. She was holding a small, waterproof camera wedged into the roots. Its tiny red light was still blinking. For 3 weeks, someone had been watching us. Stuck to the back of the camera was a North Hill High decal, the kind given only to faculty. Someone who works at the school has been recording our crime. But as the waves crashed, I looked back at the spot where Daniel fell, and I remembered the one thing we lied about that wasn't about our guilt. Daniel didn't just fall. After he was hit, after the waves took him, I saw him blink. We lied that he walked away, but the final terrifying truth was Daniel was still alive when we drove away from the lake.
Daniel was alive. Alive when we left him. We weren't just guilty of a reckless lie. We were guilty of attempted murder. Or worse, letting him drown.
The police searched the water. They searched the banks. Brian kicked the mud, scattering the silt. He hadn't seen Daniel blink, only I had. His anger was directed at the decal on the camera, not the truth of Daniel's survival.
Forget Daniel for a second. Someone at school is doing this. A teacher, a coach. They saw us. They recorded us. That is the threat, not Daniel.
Chloe's eyes hardened. The shock was replaced by cold, desperate calculation. We don't know who owns this camera, but we know 2 things. It's tied to the faculty, and it was placed here after we left. Which means whoever hit Daniel, whoever left the voice recorder, and whoever left this camera, they know Daniel is alive too. She snatched the camera back, wiping the mud away with the sleeve of her jacket. This isn't just about covering up a crime anymore. This is about finding Daniel before they do. They hit him. They left him for dead. Now they're sending us messages. They are controlling us.
I looked around the desolate shore. The crashing waves seemed to mock our terror. You're right. We need to find the owner of this decal. The faculty list is online. We can cross-reference it with anyone we remember being near the lake that night.
No, there's a faster way. The AV closet key, the one you have, Brian. The media center keeps a log of every piece of equipment that goes out. If someone took this camera recently, their name will be on the sign-out sheet.
Brian pulled back, his eyes wide. But if they're watching us, they'll expect us to look there. It's a trap. I grabbed Brian's arm. The damp mud, the cold air, the fear, it all made me sharp. We're already in the trap, Brian. But we're going in first. We need to go back to school, now. We drove back to the campus. The light in the media center was on. The clock showed 2 in the morning. We stood before the locked storage room door, and I felt the tension between us turning into something more dangerous than the external threat. Brian inserted the key and turned it with a tremor. The door opened with a squeak, revealing rows of old tape recorders and cassette boxes.
Where's the log?
I found it under a layer of dust on the table. Opening it, I discovered that the last entry had only been made 3 days ago.
Waterproof camera. Issue 2. Mr. Sims.
I felt the heartboard in me break. Mr. Sims, our history teacher. The same one who had been so kind to us after the incident.
But he was our alibi.
She whispered, her voice sounding like broken glass. We didn't wait for morning. If Mr. Sims was watching us, he knew we had the logbook.
Chloe found his apartment number on a student directory pinned to the back of the media center door. The complex was dark. We found his door. Chloe didn't knock, she pounded. The door opened slowly, revealing Mr. Sims, blinking in the sudden light. He wasn't surprised to see us, just resigned. He just stood there, waiting for the accusation. "The camera, Mr. Sims. Why are you watching us? Why are you recording our crime?" Mr. Sims sighed, pulling his robe tighter. He didn't look like a vengeful watcher. He looked like a tired man who'd failed at something. He finally spoke, his voice gravelly. "I wasn't recording your crime, Chloe. I was trying to prove your innocence." He stepped back, gesturing us inside. On his coffee table sat a pile of old-school photos and a single battered piece of evidence. The lake wasn't Daniel's first close call. He was prone to accidents, but he always managed to blame others. "Daniel is my son."
The battered piece of evidence was a transcript from a disciplinary hearing from 2 years ago. Daniel had blamed a student for pushing him down the stairs. The student was expelled, but Mr. Sims now knew Daniel had orchestrated the whole thing. He said, "I knew you were lying about him walking away," Mr. Sims said, his voice heavy. "But I never believed you were killers. I thought one of you, perhaps driven by panic, might have accidentally caused the fall." He pointed to the pile of photos. "I was filming your reaction, hoping one of you would break, show guilt, and reveal who really hit him. I needed to know if I was chasing a cover-up or a murder." He said, "My camera was the one that recorded the thwack, not yours." "So, you know who it was?" Mr. Sims shook his head slowly. "No, but I heard the voice right before, and it wasn't any of you." He looked at Brian, then at the key around his neck. "That media center key isn't just for tapes. It opens the old storage room beneath the gymnasium. I found evidence that someone has been hiding something there for weeks. If you want to know who hit Daniel, you need to open that storage room tonight." He gave me a hard stare. "But be warned, Daniel may be my son, but the person who struck him is far more dangerous than anything you've imagined."
The silence on the drive back to the school was heavier than any conversation. Brian's hands were shaking as he directed the flashlight beam to a low, rusted metal door hidden behind a rack of unused wrestling mats. The key Mr. Sims referenced was larger than the one for the AV closet, a skeleton key. It squealed as Brian turned it. The room was cold, smelling of mold and forgotten leather.
This is it. This is the trap. We should leave now.
I ignored her, sweeping the light across dusty shelves lined with old trophies and decaying football pads. The air was thick with expectation. Then I saw it. Tucked into a high, dark recess, a duffel bag that didn't belong. It was brand new, nylon and bright red. I pulled it down. It was heavy, weighted with something solid and rounded. We unzipped it together. Inside, wrapped in a faded North Hill teen jersey, was a trophy. The school's annual baseball MVP award. It was heavy, metal, and its base was sticky. The true horror wasn't the trophy. It was the inscription scratched into its base. Mike, MVP 2025. Mike was the one who hit Daniel, the one who had stood beside us, silent, watching us lie, knowing he was the actual killer. Mike had been hiding the truth and the weapon right here, beneath our feet, all along. As I looked down at the trophy, I remembered something else. That night, by the lake, when we were all scrambling to leave. Mike wasn't with us. He was a few feet back. He said he was grabbing his phone. He was actually going back for his MVP trophy, the one Daniel had laughed at him for winning earlier that night. The silence that followed was broken by the sickening sound of realization. Mike's face was utterly blank. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He just stared at the trophy we held.
You bastard! You stood there and watched us lie?
Mike finally moved. A slow, calculated shift. He didn't look at Chloe. He looked at me. He deserved it. He was going to leak the photos of me cheating on the final exam. He was going to take the scholarship. He always got what he wanted. The trophy clattered to the floor. Brian lunged forward, and Mike didn't resist. He simply curled up, defeated. We had the killer, but our own nightmare hadn't ended. If we called the police, the investigation would start at the lake. Our lie about Daniel walking away would immediately turn into obstruction of justice. We had protected a murderer for 3 weeks. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call the police. I called Mr. Sims. He arrived 10 minutes later, silent, grim, taking in the scene. The duffel bag, the trophy, Mike sobbing on the dusty floor. He didn't need to hear the confession. He just needed to know who. "Daniel is alive," Mr. Sims finally said. "He's been in the hospital since they pulled him out of the water the next morning, but he may never walk again." Mike was gone, taken by his father. Our group, the 6 friends, was gone too. We hadn't committed murder, but we had done something unforgivable. We had left a victim for dead, knowing he was alive, to save ourselves. The lie was over, but our lives, our senior year, our scholarships, our futures, had drowned in the lake that night anyway.